Tracking, alerting, protecting. This is WKYT News at Noon.
What led to I-64 being shut down with cows roaming the interstate? Police say a driver fell asleep at the wheel. I'll show you how that cleanup is going.
Winter weather or not, outdoor work goes on. We'll show you how people are doing that, are staying warm.
Well, the looks of it out down toward the southeast, it does not look good. Around here in Lexington, looks phenomenal. It's just downright cold. When do we move this stuff on out of here, though? Well, I'll show you that in your forecast. It does get warmer toward the weekend. That comes up in just a few minutes. WKYT News at Noon starts right now.
Good afternoon on your Tuesday, and welcome to WKYT News at Noon. I'm Bill Bryant.
And I'm Barbara Bailey. We're feeling dangerously cold temperatures in the bluegrass this midday.
In fact, we tied a record low this morning of 12 degrees officially, and we could break a record cold high later today. So when will the warmer air finally make a return to the bluegrass state? WKYT meteorologist Micah Harris is live in our First Alert Weather Center with an answer on that.
Well, my goodness, we're just not rising our temperatures that much. In the eastern zones, the reason being is the cloud cover, even a few flakes still flying around. Not amounting to much, but anything it hits, it sticks to because it is very cold out there. Then we come back toward here in the central zones. It's beautiful outside. A lot of sunshine. It's not helping us out much. We're still at 19 degrees there in Frankfort. 18 in Lexington. We won't have an issue breaking that record today. The coldest high at 24 degrees. That's the record. Yeah, I think we sit there in the low 20s when it's all said and done. Still a few flakes left over. We'll get this stuff on out and get warmer temperatures in here. And I'll show you when coming up in about 10 minutes.
Thank you, Micah. Despite the bitter cold, there are many people who can't avoid being outdoors. Some workers have to brave the elements to get the job done, many standing out in the freezing weather for hours. WKYT's Sean Moody continues our top story team coverage to tell us how they're trying to stay warm. Sean?
Well, if you don't have any pressing need to be outside today, the best thing for you to do might be just to sit there under a blanket on your couch watching WKYT. But for some people, working outside goes on, whether it's 100 degrees or 10 degrees. The sun certainly had its job cut out for it today, trying to get temperatures to bounce back from where they were this morning.
Good morning.
And people bundled up tight, trying to spend as little time as possible outside.
Are you in there somewhere?
But that is not an option for Clifford Gentry.
Garbage don't stop.
He's been doing this for 15 years.
I've been out in the ice storm, you know, when the trees broke and all that. I've been in all of it. You name it, I've done it.
So he knows when the thermometer takes a dive, you pay attention.
Thermals, hoodie, and extra coat.
Dr. Ryan Stanton says layering up is the secret to staying warm out there.
And the more layers you have, the more difficult it is for that air outside to dissipate that heat, and the easier it is for your body to build up that heat and hold that heat in close.
And Clifford says all this hard work out there in the cold just might pay off.
Maybe the boss man to see how hard I work, I might get a raise this Christmas.
Dr. Stanton says one wintertime item you might not think about is sunglasses. He says all the snow cover here on the ground reflects all those UV rays, so a good pair of sunglasses is also a good idea. In Lexington, Sean Moody, WKYT.
All right, in Lexington, firefighters had to make several medical runs last night for people out in the cold. The bitter cold wasn't the only challenge for drivers. They also had to contend with a fresh coating of light snow. That was just enough to cause a few slick spots on the roads. One person lost control on Winchester Road overnight while trying to make a U-turn and slid into a ditch. Police say his injuries were non-life-threatening. The main roads in Lexington are clear at this noon hour, but some side roads are still snow-covered.
I want to remind you, you can always track severe weather when you're away from your TV. You can take control of our interactive First Alert Defender at WKYT.com. Zoom right up into your town or even your neighborhood. You can also download the WKYT First Alert Defender radar app for your iPad or your smartphone. Just search for WKYT in your app store. All right, turning to other news at noon now. Interstate 64 remains partially shut down this midday after a cattle trailer overturned just before the morning commute.
Now, it happened around 5:30 this morning in the westbound lanes near Frankfort. The interstate is closed between exits 48 and 53, tying up traffic for hours. Several cows got loose after the crash, causing even more accidents. WKYT's Victor Puente is in Franklin County now with an update on the efforts to get that road back open. Victor?
At this point, it's been almost 7 hours since the driver of this cattle trailer lost control, sending his semi and more than 100 cows flipping into the median. It was around 5:30 this morning when the driver, going from Virginia to Kansas, went off the westbound lane of I-64. Police say despite the temperatures, weather didn't cause this crash.
The driver fell asleep, ran off the roadway, and rolled on an embankment.
The driver and his passenger were okay, but most of the 110 cattle were trapped in that trailer, minus the few who were roaming the interstate.
And we had to shut down the interstate to keep people from hitting them.
But 3 cows were still struck by vehicles. Melton says the drivers were trying to shortcut the mess.
They hopped the median and went back the opposite direction, which, you know, they were shut down for a reason.
After loading the live cattle onto the other trailers, firefighters began removing the ones that didn't survive. They estimate at least 30 died in that crash. They all had to be removed before that trailer could be pulled upright and hauled away. It's a job that's taking its toll.
Trying to keep the guys warm and dry and you know, chasing cattle. We've had a cattle chase a fireman up side of a hill. He charged one of the firefighters out there trying to corral him. So we've had a busy morning.
Melton tells me they've had several veterinarians here at the scene. He says they were even able to save one of those cows that was struck by a vehicle. In Franklin County, Victor Puente, WKYT.
Victor, thank you. Westbound I-64 is open now, but it is down to 1 lane and traffic is still backed up for miles. If you go that way, you can expect a long delay. Well, emergency crews responded to a school bus crash this morning in Scott County. That happened around 11 o'clock on Paris Pike near the connector road just off I-75. The crash involved the bus and at least 1 other car. The Scott County Superintendent's office says 1 student was on board the bus. That student was taken to be checked out by a doctor, but is okay.
Kentucky's 2015 governor's race is about to become more crowded. Jeff Young will kick off his campaign for the state's highest office at 2:30 this afternoon. He'll be up against Attorney General Jack Conway for the Democratic nomination. Now, Young will have a somewhat controversial running mate in Cherokee Schill. She was arrested twice over the summer for riding her bike on US 27. Now, so far, 2 Republicans have thrown their hats into the race: Louisville businessman Hal Heiner and Agriculture Commissioner James Comer. Kentucky Governor Steve Beshear says the second enrollment period for the state's health insurance exchange is off to a strong start. During the first weekend, the governor's office says 1,100 people purchased a health insurance plan or renewed their current plan. The second enrollment period started Saturday and ends February 15th. Beshear says 735 people used Connect to sign up for Medicaid this weekend. Well, the New Orleans Saints fan who snatched a game ball away from a Bengals fan during the game on Sunday is now telling his side of the story.
The rest of the story. 70-year-old Tony Williams says he did not intend to hurt Krista Barrett, who is from Versailles and who now lives in New Orleans, but that his motivation was to keep the football for his grandchild, and that he did not realize when when it was thrown that it was intended for anyone in particular. Williams, who is a former Zulu king, is used to handing out prized coconuts to crowds only to have them intercepted. He says that that is the way, that the New Orleans way, with one exception.
If that would have been a child, I would have gladly given the football to the child. I didn't want to upset no one because I love this city, and I would just say, and I love the Saints.
Tight end Jermaine Gresham, who caught the touchdown pass for the Bengals, autographed a ball for Barrett and sent it to her yesterday. So it's all ending all right.
Everybody's got a football. It's okay.
There are renewed fears this midday that Jerusalem will see an outbreak of violence following today's deadly attack on a synagogue.
Find out what Secretary of State John Kerry had to say about that invasion next on Kentucky's #1 midday news.
Also ahead on WKYT News, Kentucky natives Jennifer Lawrence and Josh Hutcherson walked the red carpet at the LA premiere of the newest Hunger Games movie. That's coming up after a quick break.